What up, everybody? JJ back here. Run Pure Bets. Here for you guys in the Discord. Talk a little MLB for tomorrow. Maybe sweat a little action that you guys might have going on right now. I've been really watching a little bit of tennis, so I don't know too much about baseball scores or NBA scores. I know that the Heat won, so good for spread. Dude just straight rakes. Joey should have cashed his. I mean, that's some BS. But yeah, interesting slate tomorrow. Short slate, right? Would be 8 games. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games because the Seattle one's postponed. And nothing right away either. What's up, Kyle? Nothing right away either jumps out at me as far as the initial lines go. And I know that might not be something you want to hear, right? Like you're hoping to come in, get your whale, and then, go back to jerking off. But tomorrow, a few early games too, which is nice, right? For a little Thursday. Only 4 night games. What's up, Willie? So tomorrow, well, first of all, I hope we get my boy Dennis in here. That'd be nice to cap off the night. I hope you guys got that in, by the way. I know I tagged the chat like, I don't know, 15 minutes before that was going to be my target. And then I messaged 10 minutes later that it's looking like we're going to get there. And then ultimately, I know I said I'm backing off for a bit, but then we finally got there to the number. So like I said, hope you guys tailed that at least, only for half unit, but hope you guys got on board there. Then it was nice to hit the Rockies, right? That was a nice comeback. That bet looked dead in the water. So that was nice to hit as well. So yeah, ultimately another good day for us, good day for the crew, especially with the spreadsheet plays. I haven't been in the Discord much, so I don't know if there's been a lot of live plays been getting given out, but overall spreadsheet did well. So tomorrow, actually, you know what, real quick, you guys, what are you guys sweating right now? I'll throw on the love betting on us Canadians. Yeah, Willie. You know what? I also trying to think. There's another. So I love Bianca. Queen Bee, Willie. Andreescu, right? And it looks like Dennis just finally wrapped it up. I love that chick. I don't know why she didn't play in this tournament. She's probably hurt, I guess. But Thomas needs the stars. Betting hockey too, Thomas. Come on. I hope. I mean, unless it was like a max fade. If it was a max fade, then you gotta be jumping on those. Those are like mandatory to bet. All right, let me throw on some baseball with you guys so I can at least see what I'm rooting for. San Diego team total over makes sense. I know we discussed it earlier today, and I'll tell you what. Some of the bets that I said, kind of quote unquote made sense. I'm kicking myself that I didn't bet the Toronto under. I mean, that was one of the surest unders. I know I said it last night. I was kind of waiting for it to bump to 8. It never did. Maybe some of you, and I know that DTB mentioned it in the Discord that like sometimes you can at least leverage the information we're giving you to make your own bets, right? Like maybe your own bets you want to make. Like obviously he was able to pick up that maybe a no-run first inning would have made sense. I don't know if he laid it or not, but he said it would have made sense based on what we were saying, right? But, a lot of strong points pointed to that game going under, but I'm pretty disciplined with that. I wanted to wait to get the right number. Just didn't get there for me. But, I mean, if you watch the game, like there was like a few jams, but ultimately that was as smooth as an under as you could have bet. Nice to see you jumped on that, Adam, because like I said, it made a lot of sense. I stay disciplined to the numbers. I don't like to jump aboard bad numbers. I mean, you saw the same thing with it goes the same thing with the Dennis bet, right? Like, yeah, sure. I could have jumped on him after the first set, right at minus 155, right? That was his price after the first set. Could have jumped in right there. But my problem was I know Wu was serving. So like, why would I assume Wu was serving? So, and he didn't even face a break point that whole first set. So why would I pay 155 when, he's more than likely going to hold his serve in that first service game, and it'll help us out about 20 cents, right? So you wait for that first service game to hit, then you jump on the line at 130, 135. And even if it loses, you save yourself 20 cents. You always got to be thinking about those scenarios where, hey, look, where can I save 15, 20 cents here, there? Because ultimately all that stuff adds up, guys. Like, at least talking long term. Like, again, sure, it won pretty easily. I think he broke whatever it was, like 2 service games later, and it ended up being all right. But it doesn't matter. Like the target price in that spot was definitely, that 135 area And I was glad that I got on board, and it looks like some of you guys did as well, which is great because ultimately helps our team out for the day as well. What was I going to say? So tomorrow's slate, I can't believe there's still, 6 or 7 games on right now? Detroit, Milwaukee, still tied. Atlanta, Boston. Man, runs made a lot of sense in that game. And Minnesota, Chicago, the Sox can't get out of their own way, right? The White Sox, like Minnesota's about to sweep them. Tomorrow, no, they will sweep them if they win here because ultimately they go to play Kansas City next. Wow. After Djokovic lost the tiebreaker, his game line went to 6.5. Yeah, Djokovic is, dude's a freak. Like betting on him against him. Like I know, like your sharper people will try to find holes betting against a guy like him, but man, like you ain't gonna make a living betting against Novak. That's for sure. But you will have to obviously lay heavy lines when you do it. But yeah, interesting tournament. A lot of ladies dropped out today, right? I don't know how many people in here follow tennis, but a lot of ladies popped out, and then Brangle just absolutely waxed Yastrzemska, sorry, which was surprising. A bunch of chicks, and I didn't even follow. And that's right, Pliskova lost. It's just a wild day, especially towards the end in women's tennis. And don't get me wrong, you're always going to have your variance with some of these, big players going down. But woof, a lot of them went down early, which is going to open up. It's actually going to open up an easier path. It's actually going to open up an easier path for a lot of these other players on the ladies' side. Throughout their bracket. You get Pliskova, Risk. Georgie was going to go anyway. Yastrzemska, and Rybakina, like. All of them lose. That's just going to open up a crazy path for some of these other people. Mladenovic went down earlier today. Wouldn't consider that a big upset, but it is one. Kerber looked tremendous. I'm not sure if you guys watched the match. It was one of the first ones of the day. Kerber looked great. Friedson really hasn't been playing well coming to this tournament, but if you watch that match, she looked really good and really pushed Kerber. But Kerber continued to hit just good shots. I know I posted some futures before the tournament. I know one of them was Kerber. One of them was my girl, the American girl, Kenin. I'm trying to think of a few others, but I posted 5 in total. I believe they're all 5 are still in and still live. Osaka's the only one you're going to have to really look out for. I don't think Serena's going to really be a big threat here, at least for the course of the tournament. She hasn't really been a threat in a major in 3 years now or so, maybe even longer. She always gets a lot of attention, obviously, coming to these tournaments, but she's just really not what she once was. It's not even that. Like, she just happens to always run into a very hot player in these majors and doesn't seem to be able to overcome it. She's made a few finals now recently, last year or so, year and a half, but she just can't seem to close. So I'm not concerned about her. Osaka's a big concern, though. Osaka looks really good. It definitely hurt the futures that I posted. All right, so I know I keep stalling here. Tomorrow, first game on tap. So Pirates Cubbies. I know it was a game I gave out a few days ago over. Sweat for a little bit, but then ended up, I think, cashing in the 6th inning. Now, this is an interesting scenario. 2 really average at best pitchers. Alec Mills is terrible. I say average at best. I guess he has some bright spots about him. His advanced stuff looked terrible. His surface numbers look terrible. His advanced numbers look terrible. There's not really much to like about Alec Mills. But what there is things to like about is the Cubs bats have been at least semi-alive the last few games. Now, you could argue it's because of Pittsburgh's pitching. Sure, maybe. But, you could – see, here's the thing. So this total at 9.5, the only thing I would just want to make sure – there's no doubleheaders tomorrow, right? Everything's pure. Yeah, everything's the same. Okay, so the problem with this total is Pittsburgh is just not hitting, right? So I said this, well, now all of a sudden, again, they're not hitting. They had a little 2 or 3 game streak where they were starting to poke in some runs, but now they're just not hitting again. So when you have a total like this, you're more or less probably going to need a lot of help from the Cubs. Now, let's dig a little deeper on Brubaker's numbers, who's going for the Pirates. 1 second. So ultimately, the line, 9.5, okay, minus 145, open 165, but it was like 165 for like 10 seconds. So if you even consider that, that's where it opened. So Brubaker hasn't been bad, 20 innings, 4.5 ERA, FIP underneath 4, xFIP at 4.5. Sierra's in the same neighborhood. But this is a righty, right? And Cubs have a ton of lefties with, especially with pop. Which is a little scary. My thing is like, you might look at this and just say, well, this makes sense for an under, right? The last 2 games the totals have been like 9.5, 10-ish, right? And there's been better pitching matchups, and now we're stuck with a number of 9.5 again. But it's like I said, like 9.5 for this ballpark's a pretty big number. It's not like huge. 10 would be obviously bigger. I think I gave 10. 10 was the play from Tuesday, I believe, or Monday. So, but overall, it's a good point. Where like the whole card in general is a tough one tomorrow. But for this game in particular, so I think you're going to get a lot of people that are going to probably want to target the over. It's hard to imagine like Pittsburgh getting love, right? I mean, I know Alec Mills has such a bad taste in so many people's mouths because he sucks, but man, like Pittsburgh just can't like get out of their own way. And I know I mentioned this last week on a video, like you're going to get to a point where Pittsburgh's season is virtually over, and at some point the books are going to have to make adjustments to Pittsburgh's lines because they're just like giving up, right? Like they don't even want any part of it doesn't seem like they even want any part of wins these days, right? So if I'm going to target this game, I would think the Cubs team total would be a spot I'd like, not a spot I love. Definitely not. I wouldn't consider this a play that I'm going to be on tomorrow. But again, if you're trying to look at an angle for the game, Cubs team total over would probably make the most sense. I can't bet Pittsburgh's team total over just because they haven't shown me enough in the last few days with the sticks, despite Alec Mills' woes. And I can't bet Pittsburgh's team total under because it's Alec Mills, right? So, and the Cubs bullpen. So, but if we're talking like this game going over, the game going over would probably only get there if the Cubs team total gets there. And that ultimately makes the most sense. Now, at a line of 145 total, 9.5, their team total is probably going to be 5.5, 5. It's got to be at least 5. So it's probably going to be 5 with Vig, maybe 5.5 at dog money. That would be my only lean for that game. Again, if I'm reaching for a spot, that would be the spot I would navigate towards. Now, next game, so Houston with Greinke against Lance Lynn. I say this often, like Lance Lynn's such a freak. Like, dude, I don't know how that dude does it. Doesn't throw like smoke. Throws hard. Doesn't throw smoke. Good cutter. A revamped cutter. Greinke is just like a wizard, right? I mean, dude throws like 89. Right? Like he's slowly molding himself or trying to mold himself seemingly into like Greg Maddux, right? The dude throws like a 45-mile-an-hour curveball. But again, another year where Greinke's kind of grinding out innings. Let me just look a bit deeper into Greinke's advanced stuff, because you look at this line, and obviously this line has to be this, right? I mean, Greinke minus 160. And like you see this often where like Lance Lynn's lines, when they plays good teams, are always like about this. And you're like, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Lance Lynn's good. But the problem is Texas is just a bad team. So like, if Lance Lynn doesn't get you his 7 innings, 2 earned, and even if he does, like, will Texas be able to get runs? Now they've been scoring recently. I'm not sure what the score is. So a low scoring game here tonight in Houston. No true relevance on tomorrow's game, but so I look at Greinke's numbers, just another, like, this is, like I said, this guy just like grinds innings out. And I look at it here. So 2.68 ERA, 2.58 FIP. Like for a guy with his stuff, like that's just incredible. Like I want to be clear, for his velocity, that's just like what he does is incredible. Again, a guy like him is all about location. But he just gets batters out, throwing more or less his 4 pitches. Yeah, so his fastball is actually down 3 miles an hour this year, down in 87 mile an hour is your average fastball. That means that legitimately means like half of his fastballs are under 87 miles an hour. It's just wild. Throws a lot of the slider, throws a lot of the curveball, a lot of the changeup. Again, for him, it's all about location. Just impressive that he continues to get batters out. Now, Lance Lynn, Lance Lynn, I'm interested to see what his advanced stuff is because I haven't done a lot on Lance Lynn this year. Bet on any of his games. I don't believe I bet on any of them actually at all. But I just remember him from last year was just a freak, especially at home. ERA of 1.93. Now FIP, a little uglier, 3.54, but that's still tremendous. XFIP 4.16. Dude still's rocking like a 10K per 9. He's just incredible. Now, the question you have to ask yourself if you're going to bet this game is, do you think – what's up, Joey? Do you think if you're going to want to put action on this one in particular because, like, you look at this line, right? It's going to drop to 7.5 if it hasn't already. And you have to ask yourself, like, where are the runs going to come from in this game, right? Because these teams haven't exactly been pounding runs in for the series. I mean, a few home runs, right, have added to totals, right? But if you remove home runs from the equation, runs have not been scored in the series. And now you have basically two borderline. I mean, Lance Lynn's Texas is ace. I mean, Houston with Verlander. I mean, Greinke's got to be their ace. I mean, at least statistically. So, now you're getting two good arms. Game's early though, right? That could have its own level of variance. 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Houston. It's a very early game for over there. But if I'm looking a spot to lead, probably be first 5 under for me. At 7.5, you should be able to get 4. You may even have to like real heavy vig to get 4.5. If this bumps back up to 8, you should be able to get 4.5 at like a decent, like a 125-ish. That would be my lean. Again, just a tough. Astros and Rangers might be the only two that don't have any type of rivalry. Yeah, exactly. The Rangers just always get their ass whooped. Of course, except for last night. But, so like I said, so for me, guys, if I'm going to target this spot, it'll probably be a first 5 under. It's going to be a low number. It'll be 4. And again, if this bumps to 8, this will bump to about 4.5 with heavier vig. But that would be the only spot that makes sense. Again, you get two teams that really aren't hitting that well in the series, and now you get them both going up against their aces. Probably have to be some long balls to push that over. If you don't get the long balls, that should be a fairly decent spot to cash. Now, next game, Philly and Washington. So Zach Eflin, guy we targeted on a Sunday Night Baseball game a few weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, going up against Anibal Sanchez. Now, Anibal Sanchez, a dude that was due for some heavy regression coming into the season, and has certainly seen it. And I actually think, as bad as his numbers are, as bad as his surface numbers are, I think his advanced stuff's worse. He's just a guy that's just getting hit very, very hard right now. So 6.9 ERA, FIP 6 and an XFIP 5.3, not crazy. He doesn't strike anybody out. He really needs to get ground balls, and he's just not getting them as much as he needs to be. Only about a 34% ground ball rate. Now Eflin, interesting because this dude's just piling up strikeouts, right? Like he's got almost a 13K per 9, which is really just ridiculous. And ERA of 4.10, FIP 2.7. So his advanced stuff is really good versus his surface. And that was something that I mentioned on the Sunday Night Baseball article from a few weeks ago, or again, a week and a half ago. Now, he was last year somebody who was very good at home, very poor on the road. It's kind of been a tendency of Eflin. Comes off a good start here versus Atlanta, again, at home. So he's back home again tomorrow. Nats bats are kind of warm, right? They've been hitting well. This total is 10.5. It's probably where it should be. Again, when you talk about these two teams' bullpens, this is where this number really needs to be. Now, for me, so 164 here, and I want to check real quick. The Phillies, did they win tonight? Do we know if the Phillies won tonight? Let me see. I could check it from here. Idiot. So the Phillies are up 3-0. So the Phillies are kind of riding themselves. A nice little streak, right? I mean, let me see here. Are they kind of going streaking? I think they've won. Oh, no, because they lost the game against the Braves where they put up like 10 runs. No. Yeah, they lost the game against the Braves where they put up 10 runs. But other than that, this team has been cruise control. I mean, look at 1, 2, 3. What is they've won like 8 of 9 or 7 of 8. And now, and again, when you talk like sharp square, like your public is gonna be on Philly tomorrow, right? They have to be. It's Eflin at home. Anibal Sanchez sucks. So so here you have to figure out what makes sense for value for you, right? Because you're going to go first 5. You're going to have to lay about $1.20, right? I don't have first 5 lines in front of me, but you're going to have to lay about $1.20 with Philly, which will make sense. Philly should have more opportunities to score. And Eflin's been real good at home. So for me, I mean, it's going to sound chalky, but man, I'd have to figure by the time this game goes off, this line's going to be like 180, 190. It has to be. Because there's not much that you can look into this game and really feel comfortable backing, the agita, backing Anibal Sanchez, right? Especially on the road against a Philly team that's winning a bunch of games or hitting the ball relatively well. And everything's contagious, right? Like, it's so weird. When you're hitting well, like indirectly, all of a sudden, magically, your pitching starts to flow for you, unless you're with the San Francisco Giants. But like, you see it often, like winning is contagious. So it really translates to all levels of every sport, to be honest. But for baseball in particular, it really kind of dominoes upward in all aspects. Same thing with losing too. Kind of when you're not hitting, all of a sudden your pitching starts to struggle a bit. I do think it's all, kind of like dugout, locker room kind of stuff for momentum building. But Philly's playing real well. You kind of be crazy to bet anything Nationals tomorrow, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't mind laying the half run there. If I'm going to target a spot in that game, it'll probably be where you're aiming. And I have to assume that line kind of jumps as well. So got 3 more games here that have spreads. So Boston plays Toronto now. I think a lot of people are going to look at this game and have a semi-interesting take. So Taijuan Walker made his debut for Toronto, pitched relatively well, the kid from Seattle. And now goes on the road against the Red Sox. Now, he did pitch really, really well in that first start, right? I'm pretty sure I had him. Saw he threw pretty well. So here's my issue with Walker. So the ERA is 3.27, but his advanced stuff is looking – so he went more or less 6 shutout. The advanced stuff for him is kind of on par with his career, which kind of tells me regression is on its way for Mr. Walker. Just going to be a matter of when it happens. Now, you could argue it will happen probably against a Boston team. Now, I think the interesting thing with Walker was I thought last year he was so bad against right-handed bats. I want to see if that kind of trend is similar this year, which is interesting because he's a right-handed pitcher. But I thought that's what it was. So this year he's awful versus lefties. I wonder if I just have him mixed up with another pitcher. But this year, so did this adjust for me in 2019? Taijuan Walker splits 2019. I think in 2018. No, this isn't right. What I'm looking at is not right. I don't know why it's not right, but it's definitely not right. Okay, well, anyway, this year he's actually been really good versus righties, really bad versus lefties, and he weighted OBA at 382 versus lefties and 209 versus righties. So Boston's not going to come at him with a lot of lefties, right? I mean, Devers. Outside of Devers, from the left-handed side of the plate, who's really that big in Boston? Now on Boston's side, so Martin Perez. Remember when he had his little show he was putting on for quite a few starts last year, and before he kind of leveled off. Interested to see. I haven't dug a lot in on Martin Perez this year, but I'm interested to see what his advanced stuff looks like. Because he's another guy kind of like Lance Lynn that was a terrible pitcher, started to leverage a cutter last year, and saw some improvements for a bit before, again, beginning to level out or median out, if you will. So here's a guy, 4.58 ERA, advanced stuff in the 5s. Doesn't strike many people out. Here's the thing with Martin Perez. Like, he needs to get ground balls, okay? Like in that 50% neighborhood. And he's getting them at like a 35% clip, which is just not going to cut the mustard for him. And if you're looking at this game tomorrow, the issue I have is Toronto's bats have been cold. Like, whoa. So if you're looking at it like, oh, you know what? I can get Walker, who pitched real well at this price. Like, do realize Toronto is really not hitting. You saw it again tonight. I'm talking about gets a good arm for the Marlins, but I want no part of Toronto tomorrow. And I will say this, if this line was to shift a bit, and I don't know if it will, but if this line was to shift a bit where the Red Sox become like plus 115, plus 120, for me, that legitimately might be a target. I know the Red Sox are bad, but at least I know the Red Sox are hitting, okay? The Blue Jays are just not hitting. And, it might be like a first 5 target spot because I really want no part of that Boston bullpen. But yeah, if that climbs to like plus 115, that would be a spot I'd lean on the side of Boston. Again, I know that's not going to be a super popular play, but I look at this line a little different because again, I know Toronto's not hitting, so I see minus 116, which is a soft number with a team like Toronto against Boston, who's terrible, but at least Boston's hitting. So that would be my target for that one. Yeah, and you're right. Well, they're just overall not playing good baseball. The errors have been quite head scratching too. Other game here. So White Sox Royals. I'm not sure who's going for the Royals. Do you guys know who's pitching for the White Sox? Obviously, you got Duffy from the left side for the Royals against the struggling White Sox bats. But is there a listed pitcher do you guys see for the White Sox tomorrow? Let me see. Oh, good game brewing in Florida. Anyway, Houston and OKC is a close game. I assume NBA fans are enjoying that one. Let me see. NBA, MLB. There has to be a listed pitcher for that game, right? Am I missing something? Let me see. Imagine if I had fast internet. Okay, so Thursday. Okay, so Dylan Cease. Now, I am not, and I repeat, not a Dylan Cease guy. So, I look at so now this line is $1.30 White Sox, right? Now, White Sox are not playing good baseball by any stretch of the imagination. They were on their little heater there for a little bit. They've cooled off. They will draw a lefty here. Now, I say they've cooled off. I mean, they're still finding ways to win games, but don't think they're winning tonight. Yeah, they're down tonight. But really, the bats overall have just relatively slowed down. They kind of came alive late in that first game of the Twin Series. But here they do draw a lefty, right? In Duffy, who's average at best. But Dylan Cease is like his numbers are just real ugly when you start unraveling them. So this guy's ERA is 3. His FIP is more than double that. This guy is really getting lucky on many fronts. These are types of things like you can't chase regression. Okay, like you can't sit here and just keep fading every Dylan Cease start, right? But man, this does not look good. This future for him does not look bright, if you will. And I look at the total for this game at 10.5. I'll tell you what, like, is it 10.5? Am I looking at the right game? No, 9.5, right? 9.5? Yeah, 9.5. Man, I'll tell you, that just seems like such a smash spot to bet over. Now, I know 9.5, a decent sized total for Kansas City, and the White Sox are struggling with their bats. I'm interested to see how Duffy does versus righties. I got to assume he gets mauled against righties. Let me see. Let me look at his splits. So he's got ERA in the 4s. For the one thing about Duffy, like you watch him pitch, he's not like a sexy guy to watch, but he just finds ways to get at a lot of jams. His ERA seemingly consistently stays in the 4s. Okay, so he's tremendous versus lefties, polar opposite versus righties. Weighted OBA 318 versus right-handed bats, and versus left-handed bats, he's almost impossible to hit. But that's not going to matter because the White Sox are basically all righty. So you would figure the White Sox will be able to tag him for some runs. he's given up 6 home runs to right-handed bats in a total of 27 innings, 15 earned runs. He just really struggles against right-handed bats. Now, he just came off a start against the White Sox where he gave up 3 earned. One was via the error. But 2 home runs. Now, granted, you could say he's seeing a different team now with the White Sox. The bats aren't as live. But, man, you'd figure White Sox will have opportunities to put a few in the seats, especially with how heavy that lineup is with right-handed bats. And then, like I said, Dylan Cease, regression is on its way for this young fella. Well, I don't think he's that young, actually. He's 24. So if I'm targeting this spot, and I wouldn't want to touch the bullpens in this game. White Sox have a decent pen. Royals aren't like that bad. It would probably be a first 5 total over. So at 9.5, you should be able to get 5.5 at dog money maybe. That would be the spot I would target. Again, it's hard to fall in love with that just because the White Sox have been kind of struggling, and it is the Royals who just find ways to run themselves into outs. But that would be the spot I would target. Now, Arizona Dodgers, Luke Weaver versus Clayton Kershaw. So a few weeks ago, maybe not a few weeks ago, but a little shorter than that, Luke Weaver was basically en route to being out of Major League Baseball, just absolutely abysmal. Then he puts together a few decent starts. I know that we backed him. No, we didn't back him specifically, but when he played Montez, we had the team total for Arizona, where he threw actually pretty well against Oakland. Now, his ERA is still ballooned to 8, so I wonder did he get blown up in his last start, Weaver? Kind of 3 innings, 4 earned. I mean, but he was before that. He was throwing relatively okay against the hot Giants. 5.2 innings, only 2 earned. Against Oakland, 5 innings, 1 earned. Goes back against San Francisco again and gives up 4 earned. Kind of pitching a little better than he was to start the year. ERA of 8, but look, his FIP and XFIP are basically at 5, so he's not as bad as that ERA looks. And then, look, it's going up against Kershaw, right? So Kershaw's Kershaw. Kind of know what you're going to get there. Look, it's 270. I mean, you won't see me laying that with the Dodgers here. Total 8.5. Overall, I mean, probably lean under for the game. 2 decent bullpen. I mean, the Dodgers have a great bullpen. Diamondbacks is okay. I would lean under for the game here, assuming Kershaw holds them to 1 or 2 earned through 6 or 7, and if Weaver can just wiggle his way out. So ultimately, the only struggle would be if you think the Dodgers are just going to smash Weaver, just bet the Dodgers team total over. But you guys know I don't like betting team totals for home teams over that often, even though you could argue like the numbers baked into the line that you're looking at as far as them only having 8 at-bats. But you got a Dodgers a big favorite here. You got to assume they're only going to get 8 at-bats here. So in 8 at-bats, can they put up – it's going to be 5.5, right? So can they put up 6 runs in 8 at-bats against Weaver in that bullpen? Probably, but not a spot I'm going to love. So I would say overall game would be under. You could even – here's the thing. You can go crazy and bet the Diamondbacks under their team total. But let me tell you something. When you are betting under team totals that are like 2.5 or 3, that is a roller coaster that you just don't want to be on. I mean, you get a leadoff walk and you're sweating. I mean, you get a 2-out walk and you're sweating, because then if a double pokes through the line, that's a run. They're already 33% there. And God forbid, you get 2 guys out and somebody hits a blast. The bet's over in one swing. So yeah, that's not a game I want to target by any means. Definitely going to be off that game now. Now, J.A. Happ's going up against Gesselman tomorrow for the Mets. The line's not out yet. If I had to assume what that line's going to be, it'll probably be like close to down the middle. It'll probably be like a 110-ish, both sides. Might even be Mets' favorite. It's hard to imagine J.A. Happ being favorite on the road. I would figure it'll be a coin flip. I think these two actually just met recently, didn't they? Didn't they just pitch against each other? Either way, line will be probably about a pick 'em and not a spot I'm going to want any part of. Now, the Mets have been really hitting the baseball. So, you could argue, depending what that total is, I got to figure that total probably about 9.5, 9-ish. Runs will probably be scored here, but the Yanks have kind of been so poor recently. They'd probably lean the Mets just in general, just based on principle. Mets are hitting well. Mets are playing well. Yankees aren't. Would probably lean Mets, but not a game I'm really going to want any part of. And then look, Clevy for the Padres is going to make his debut tomorrow against Andrew Heaney. Don't know what this line will be. Typically, the books, though, they do respect Heaney. He is better than what you see on the surface with him. So if I had to guess what this line's going to be, I mean, I can't imagine. So the Angels aren't going to be favored, right? We know that. But I can't imagine this line is any bigger than like Padres minus 135, Padres minus 140. I mean, for me, I don't know how it could. A guy making his debut for the Padres who's barely pitched over the last few weeks. And then Heaney's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know I don't even have it marked here. I know you throw a lefty at the Padres, but like, I'd figure it has to be about minus 135. That's ultimately what I'd figure the fair line would be. So that'll be another one. And I tell you guys all the time, like, I don't like targeting games where pitchers make their debut for a team. I just think there's a lot of added variance there. Good and bad for both reasons, for both sides anyway. But yeah, I think the Padres might be pretty. I'll tell you what, if it does open 135, which would be what kind of I consider a fair line there. Man, you got to figure a lot of people are going to want to bet the Padres, right? Cheap line, Clevenger's debut, drawing a lefty. But yeah, I'd have really no lean there, and I don't want to bet a team total over because Heaney's good. I like Heaney, so I wouldn't bet any team totals there. And I figured the total for that game it'll have to be 9, right? 9.5. It can't be much lower than that with the sticks of the Padres and the Angels, some of the Angels bats. But not a spot I really like. So if I'm going to tell you guys what my favorite play is, and I'll wait to see if I can find a better number tomorrow, but nothing I love, nothing really jumps out on the board for me. I know I mentioned this to you guys earlier. But as far as plays, I mean, Philly's first 5 just seems too easy. Interested to see if that line will dip though below, if somehow strange money comes into the Nats, or like I said, or that first 5 under with Texas, Houston. But no spots, like I said, no spots really, really, really jump out to me. I will say this: if somehow the Mets are an underdog tomorrow, that would be a spot I would like. I don't think they will be, but if they are, that would be a spot I like. And I know that Willie just said Happ just shut the Mets out over 7. For me, that makes me like the Mets even more. Happ is just not a good pitcher, and to think he's going to do that, seeing a lineup back to back within a short stretch would make me actually like the Mets even more. But all in all, look, guys, thanks for hanging out. I'll post if I have something official tomorrow. What I may do tomorrow is I may try to target some live tennis tomorrow. We've seen this often where, especially in this tournament, where bigger favorites have really come out flat to start and have really kind of fixed themselves over the next few sets. So that might be a spot I target again tomorrow, where I hit somebody live in the second set or third set. And I'll give you guys a lead up to it as well, just like I did today. It won't just be like a guys mid-service game, live bet, you need to make it. No, it'll be like a set will end or a set's about to end, and I'll tell you guys, that I'm about to make a bet in about 10 minutes or so, targeting a certain price. The golf show is going to be tomorrow, Willie. That show is going to be at 9:00 Eastern. It would have been tonight, but Travis had to do something, I think. I don't know. He basically stiffed me, right? No, I mean, I'm just kidding. He basically said he would have, if we did the show, he would have had to do it outdoors. I don't know what that means. He's making it like he got evicted. So I don't know. But either way, Mangone would never leave me out to dry like that. But Travis does. That's what Travis is a D-bag. We already have established this, and we all know this. But yeah, look, guys, thanks for hanging out tonight. I hope this video was at least somewhat helpful for you as you exactly, partying at the cottage. I hope this video was somewhat helpful for you, as you try to handicap tomorrow's slate. Do realize, don't go crazy force in action tomorrow. It is a limited slate, and there's really not a lot of numbers that are going to jump off the screen at you for tomorrow. But again, I will try to give you guys a play for tomorrow as we try to, we had another winning day today as a bunch, so it'll be 3 straight winning days. Try to push it into a 4th tomorrow. And yeah, look, thanks guys for hanging out. Tomorrow will be a golf show with me, Mangone, for you guys, and then I think there will be a live show. I don't know if there'll be a live cake show tomorrow. Obviously, there'll be the live shows on Saturday, Sunday, though. So, yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. I wish you all the best of luck with all your bets you're sweating tonight and tomorrow. And, yeah, I'll see you guys in the Discord. Have a good night, fellas and ladies.